Search Console reported a CLS of 0.48 on mobile. The culprit? Next image components without explicit dimensions. In Next.js 15, the layout prop e.g. layout equals responsive was removed. The article correctly uses width, height, or fill for Next.js 16, but readers on older versions, 13-14, may still see layout in legacy code. Ensure you're using Next.js 13.4 Plus with the app router for the patterns shown. When using fill without a known height, set aspect ratio on the parent container to reserve space and prevent CLS. This is more flexible than fixed heights and works for responsive grids. The article mentions Next font auto preloads, but preloading multiple font weights can delay other critical resources. For secondary weights, e.g. bold, consider setting preload false and relying on font display. Swap to avoid contention with LCP images. Let's break down image and font optimization in Next.js 16, how it works, and the exact mistake behind that failure. Next image and Next font are Next.js built-in components that optimize images and fonts. They prevent layout shifts by telling the browser exactly how much space to reserve before content loads. They also generate responsive SRC sets for images and self-host fonts with automatic subsetting. Cumulative layout shift is calculated as impact fraction times distance fraction. Google uses the 75th percentile of all visits, so if a quarter of your users see a shift, you fail. Missing image dimensions affect slow users most, and those users drive your CR/UX score. Next image has 3 modes for 0 CLS. For known dimensions, pass width and height directly. For full bleed images, use the fill prop with a position parent. For responsive grids, combine fill with the sizes prop. Without one of these, you get guaranteed CLS. Here are the 3 configurations. The first example is bad, no dimensions, so the browser reserves 0 space. The second uses explicit width and height. The third uses fill with a parent that has position, relative, and a defined height. Always use one of these patterns. The sizes prop is the most misunderstood optimization. Without it, Next image defaults to 100 VW. It downloads the largest source image available. On a 4000 px image, that's a 2 MB download on a phone that displays 375 px. This doesn't affect CLS directly, but it hurts LCP. Here's how to use sizes. The first example has no sizes, so it downloads the full-size image everywhere. The second example tells the browser to use different sizes based on viewport width. For sidebar images, set sizes equals 300 px to avoid multi-megabyte downloads. Next font defaults to display. Swap, which renders text in the fallback font immediately and swaps to the custom font when it loads. If the fonts have different metrics, the text re-renders at a different size, shifting everything below it. For body text, use display. Optional to eliminate this shift. Here are the font display options. The first example uses the default swap, which causes CLS. The second uses optional, which gives the font 100 ms to load and never swaps afterward, eliminating CLS. The third uses swap with adjustFontFallback for headings where the brand font is critical. The adjustFontFallback option automatically adjusts the fallback font's size and line height to match your custom font's metrics. When enabled, the swap from fallback to custom font is invisible. The text occupies exactly the same space, so there's 0 layout shift. If you're not using Next font, you can manually apply size adjust. Use font drop info to see any font's vertical metrics, then calculate size adjust equals custom ascent / fallback ascent 100%. This makes the swap invisible. Even with correct dimensions, your hero image still has to download. The priority prop adds a preload link in the head, telling the browser to start downloading immediately. Next font also auto-preloads font files, but only preload the font variants you actually use to avoid unnecessary network requests. Here's how to preload. The priority prop on image adds a preload link. Next font also preloads by default, but be careful, if you import multiple weights, all get preloaded. Consider loading secondary weights lazily. When you import an image statically, Next image automatically extracts width and height. For remote images, you must provide explicit dimensions or use fill and configure remote patterns in Next.js. Without remote patterns, remote images are served unoptimized. No resizing, no WebP, no src set. Here's the difference. Static imports are safe, dimensions are automatic. For remote images, you must configure remote patterns. Without it, the image is unoptimized and you get none of the performance benefits. Next image defaults to 75% quality. For hero images, you might want 80–85%. For thumbnails, 50–60% is indistinguishable. Enable AVIF format for even better compression. AVIF is ~50% smaller than WebP at equivalent quality. Combine with proper sizing to reduce image payload by 70–80%. Here's a production configuration. Enable AVIF and WebP formats, set quality to 80, and configure device sizes. This ensures images are served in the best format and size for each device. NextFont automatically subsets fonts based on the subsets option. If you use subsets, Latin, it strips all non-Latin glyphs, reducing inter from ~1, 5 MB to ~100 KB. For multilingual sites, add multiple subsets, only the relevant one loads per page. Here's how to use subsets. The first example loads only Latin characters. The second loads multiple subsets, but only the relevant one loads per page. The third shows a custom font with subsetting. Every kilobyte of unused glyphs removed is bandwidth saved. There are 3 font loading strategies. Block hides text for up to 3 seconds, bad for LCP. Swap renders fallback then swaps, causes CLS if metrics differ. Optional gives the font 100 ms to load, then uses fallback permanently, 0 CLS. Use swap for headings with metric matching, optional for body text. Here are the 3 strategies. Block is bad for LCP. Swap with adjustFontFallback is good for headings. Optional is best for body text, it guarantees 0 CLS. Lighthouse is a lab tool. It doesn't reflect real user experiences. Use the Web Vitals library to collect real user monitoring data. Monitor the 75th percentile CLS daily and set alerts if it exceeds 0.1 for any page. Here's how to instrument RUM. Add a Report Web Vitals function that sends CLS data to your analytics. This gives you real-time alerts when CLS regressions happen, so you can fix them before they affect your CR/UX score. Here's a battle-tested production configuration. Enable AVIF and WebP, set quality to 80, configure remote patterns, and use optional font display for body text. This combination catches all CLS sources. Here's the complete production configuration. It enables AVIF and WebP, sets quality to 80, configures device sizes, and sets up remote patterns for your CMS images. This is the foundation for 0 CLS. This is the same issue we highlighted at the start. Here's exactly why that happened. The team used layout equals responsive without width and height. In development, Next.js optimized locally, so it seemed fine. But in production, the browser reserved 0x0 space for the hero image. When the image loaded at its natural 1200x630 size, it shifted the entire page down by 400 px, causing a CLS of 0.48. Missing width height on next image caused the browser to reserve 0x0 space, leading to massive layout shift when images loaded. Adding explicit width and height fixed the CLS. The fix was straightforward. We added explicit width and height to all hero images. For full bleed backgrounds, we switched to fill with object hover and a position parent. We also added the sizes prop to serve correct sizes per viewport. This brought CLS down from 0.48 to 0.02. Every fill image must have a parent with position, relative, and a defined height, or it will be invisible. In development, it might work due to Next.js optimizations, but in production you get a 0 px image and CLS. Remote images without remote patterns are served unoptimized. They bypass Next images resizing, WebP conversion, and src set generation. You get none of the performance benefits, and the image may still cause CLS if dimensions are missing. This is the exact code that caused the incident. The image component has no width or height and no fill prop. The The browser reserves 0 space, and when the image loads, it shifts the page. Always provide explicit dimensions or use fill. Swap renders text twice, once in the fallback, once in the custom font. Without adjustFontFallback, the metrics differ and the page shifts. Always enable adjustFontFallback when using swap or use optional for body text. To debug CLS, first check all image components for missing width, height, or fill. Use grep to find offenders. Then check font display settings. If using swap without adjustFontFallback, that's a source of CLS. Finally, test with WebPageTest.org with slow 3G throttling to catch mobile-specific issues. Let's run through some common interview questions. How does Next.image prevent CLS? Sets inline width height to reserve space before image loads. Difference between swap and optional. Swap renders fallback then swaps, causes CLS. Optional gives 100 ms window and never swaps, 0 CLS. How to architect image pipeline for CMS. Use remotePatterns, extract dimensions at build time, use fill with aspect ratio containers, enable AVIF, monitor with Web Vitals. And a few frequently asked questions. Does Next.image auto-detect dimensions for remote images? No, remote images require explicit width height or fill. When to use width height versus fill? Use width height when dimensions are known, fill when image should stretch to fill container. Which font display is best for CLS? Optional for body text, 0 CLS, swap with adjustFontFallback for headings. Let's recap the key takeaways. Always provide width height or fill on Next.image. Use optional font display for body text. Enable AVIF plus WebP formats. Monitor CLS with Web Vitals library. Ready to go deeper? Up next, loading UI, streaming, and suspense boundaries in Next.js 16, then error handling in Next.js 16, error JS not found, JS and global errors, then metadata and SEO in Next.js 16, from basics to dynamic OG images and deploying Next.js 16, Versal, self-hosting, and static export. Find them all at TheCodeForge.io. Thanks for watching. The full article and code examples are covered in detail at TheCodeForge.io.